to avoid the sweep. Josh Donaldson, you see the numbers against the Chicago White Sox in his career. Will take on his former mentor, Mark Buehrle. And a lot of fans here, not only to see Sale, but also Mark Buehrle and what could be his final appearance here on the South Side. Reyes takes the first pitch high and away. And the second pitch is fouled back right in front of us. And a count of 1-1. Mark Buehrle spent 12 seasons with the Chicago White Sox and taking care of that fan. It is a steamy night. Thunderstorms expected later tonight. We had them earlier in the day as that pitch is fouled back and a count of 1 ball and 2 strikes. Chris Sale has put together a very remarkable stretch of 8 consecutive games with 10 or more strikeouts. No one in the history of Major League Baseball has struck out 10 or more in 9 straight as Reyes fouls it back.
And you think Sale is fired up about this one, throw 98 miles an hour here in the first inning. That's what makes him so tough. He can throw that fastball that hard, but he's got great secondary stuff.
And a pitch down low and in. Pedro Martinez back in 1999 also recorded 8 consecutive games of 10 or more strikeouts. Randy Johnson, Pedro Martinez, and Nolan Ryan each with 7 off the end of the bat, looped into center field, and with 2 strikes on him, Jose Reyes with a base hit here in the top of the first inning. The defense behind Sale out of the outfield, former Blue Jay Cabrera, Eaton in center, and Garcia out in right. Around the horn, Beckham, Ramirez, Sanchez, and Jose Abreu. The battery, Chris Sale and Flowers, Tyler Flowers.
And it's been a different type of season for Alexei Ramirez, the shortstop. Last year, he was a finalist for the Gold Glove, first in double plays.
Ground ball chopped off the bat of Donaldson. It's a double play.
Well, I was just talking about the double plays. He was third in starts, 6th inning pitch, but this year it's been a little bit different story. He's got the tied for the 4th most errors as a shortstop in the American League with 9, but that double play. First last year, and they get the first one here tonight off of Josh Donaldson.
Sam Holbrook is calling the balls and strikes behind home plate as Jose Bautista is the batter. He looks at a strike. Congratulations to Jose Bautista as well as Russell Martin. They join Josh Donaldson as all-stars for the American League. The 6th time for Jose, the 4th time for Martin. Of course, the first time in his first season back home in Toronto. And a breaking ball down low and in, and this should be an interesting at-bat, right? Jose Bautista leads the American League in walks with 65. Very patient at the plate, and he's going to make you work. And the bat is shattered and broken. Ramirez over to first base. Mark Buehrle in the dugout. Adam Eaton, Jose Abreu, and then Melky Cabrera over his last dozen games, Chavy, hitting .391, 7 extra base hits and 7 RBIs. And Avisail Garcia, the right fielder, has an 8-game hit streak. He is 12 for 30 during that stretch.
It's a lineup that has really struggled for the Chicago White Sox, and one that Mark Buehrle will take them out for his 17th start. You can see his record, 9-4. He's trying to win that 10th game for Buehrle. 364 earned run average. Gets to face his former team for the second time here at U.S. Cellular.
Faced them last August 16th. Worked 5 1/3, 3 earned runs, and struck out 3. And the first pitch misses high. There's about a 2-hour window, we are told, before more thunderstorms make their way to Chicago. And with Buehrle and Sale working, guess what? 2 hours should be good enough.
That should be good enough. With the way these guys work, they work quickly. They throw a lot of strikes. They fill up that strike zone with pitches. So you better be ready to swing it.
Why don't more pitchers work that way?
I don't know. You just have to watch these two go after it. Now, it's a contrast, and we talked a little bit about it in the opening. The contrast: Chris Sale, more power, power slider, power fastball. Buehrle just fills it up with the cutter and the changeup.
But they both get the results. Buehrle with 9 victories, 14 straight years, or 10 or more wins. On the line tonight, 15th consecutive year of 10 or more wins.
If he wins it tonight, that would give him 15. The record, Greg Maddux.
20.
How about that number? From 1988 to 2007.
Looped. Reyes, a long throw. And Eaton able to beat it out. Reyes took it on to one bounce, made a strong throw, but Eaton able to leg it out. Valencia, Pilar, and Bautista left to right in the outfield. Donaldson, Reyes on the left side. On the right side, Travis and Colabello at first base. In the battery, Buehrle and all-star Russell Martin.
Yeah, we got to take the time right now to congratulate all 3 of them: Josh Donaldson, Jose Bautista, and Russell Martin, for making the all-star team. They have meant a lot to this ball club. John Gibbons was talking about it earlier today, that they're winners. And his definition of a winner is a guy who comes every single day to do whatever it takes to help his ball club win that day. And certainly all 3 of those guys are in that category.
Absolutely. We had a chance to talk to Josh Donaldson before the game, and he was nearly speechless regarding a record 14+ million fans voting for him.
He was speechless. He just smiled.
He was just blown away by it. And of course, Don Cherry, leading the charge there on Coach's Corner on a Saturday night. And you think about the size of the country of Canada, the great country of Canada, and getting behind Josh Donaldson. And you were talking to him about how special Toronto and playing for the Blue Jays has been, as well as broadcasting in your career.
It's just blown him away, what the fans have meant to him, and the feeling is mutual. He loves playing in Toronto. He loves Canada. He loves everything about it, and people can relate to the style that he plays.
That's a great point. He's got that lunch pail mentality. And you think about that catch that he made going into the stands. Donaldson, what a great acquisition. Best in the game over there at third. Count now 3-2 to Jose Abreu, 293, 14 homers, and 44 RBIs. Melky Cabrera waits on deck.
Might be a time to start that runner. Adam Eaton over there at first base. He can run a little bit and stay out of the double play.
Ground ball. Here's Donaldson on a big hop. Quickly to second, on to first, and a double play.
Well, Matt, you were talking about the votes and all the votes that were out there. The top vote getters in 2015 for the All-Star game, Bryce Harper. Look at those crazy numbers, 13 million. Mike Trout a shade over 14 million, and the leader in a new world's record, if you will, Josh Donaldson with 14,090,000 plus votes by the fans. And I think that's a great reflection of the people in Canada who got on board.
Absolutely. Burley to Melky Cabrera. Cabrera hitting .259, 3 home runs and 30 runs driven in. Coming over via free agency, and a bouncer to Reyes, and there you go. The inning comes to an end, scoreless as we head to the top of the second here on the south side. The White Sox and the Blue Jays.
My Blue Jays right now and enter the code MBJ5601 to earn My Blue Jays points just for watching tonight's broadcast. The entry box can be found on your My Blue Jays homepage. Code must be entered by 11:59 tonight, and look for a new code tomorrow. Matt?
So many great Blue Jay fans making the journey from Detroit yesterday to here in Chicago to check out Sale and Burley, and their Blue Jays ground ball to the shortstop, and Encarnacion is out.
Well, Chris Sale, we talk about him being on some kind of roll. His last 10 starts, look at those numbers right there. An ERA under 2. Opponent's batting average of 164 and 115 strikeouts in just 12 base on balls. Remember, he pitches for the most part in the American League with the designated hitter. No easy stops in the lineups that he faces. We've also talked about 8 straight games with at least 10 strikeouts. There's another ball hit on the ground. The last time he didn't strike out 10, you have to go all the way back to May the 18th against Cleveland when he had 7. But the game before that, Milwaukee, he had 11. So if he had gotten 3 more against Cleveland, he'd be already owning the record. And there are the strikeout leaders in the American League.
Valencia grounds out. He is just tough to deal with. He's got the velocity, and then he's got the assortment in other pitches as well, Tabby.
Well, what I want to watch tonight is the chase percentage. We all know the Blue Jays are very patient hitters, and they don't really expand the strike zone and look outside the strike zone. The chase percentage this year for Chris Sale is 33%. So a lot of times he's getting a lot of the strikeouts off the plate. Fastballs off the plate, changeups off the plate. In fact, the changeup strike percentage, and that was one right there, 42% of the time it's off the plate. and the batters are swinging at it. It'd be an interesting contrast between Sale and his pitches off the plate and the Blue Jays if they can hold off of those balls.
Hit high in the air. Russell Martin, the batter, down 0-2, and now giving way Flowers to Abreu, and it's a 1-2-3 inning at the top of the second. We go now to the home half of the second here in Chicago.
In-depth sports analysis, fan favorite classics, and must-see guests. And quite frankly, it's just funny. Catch them weeknights right here on Sportsnet or connect online 24/7 at Tim and Sid. And Matt, next time you are on, you will sound so much better than you did the last time.
I couldn't hear them the last time. That's why they sounded so good. Great to see some Jays fans here. In fact, the Thornhill Reds making the journey here. They have had quite the baseball experience. Yesterday they were at the north side of town checking out the Chicago Cubs, and they've also been to the Field of Dreams in Iowa, and they took infield there. How great is that?
How fun was that? You and I got a chance to meet him, sign some autographs, take some picture with him before the ball game today. Huge baseball fans, and they love the Blue Jays.
Absolutely. So a shout out to Jordy Miller and Cole Weinberg and the rest of the Thornhill Reds. The 0-2 and a swing and a miss. Garcia goes down.
Well, Mark Burley, like Chris Sale, getting it done over his last 6 starts. Check out these numbers. A 167 earned run average. He's going deep into the ballgame, 7 1/3 innings. A 4-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio, and opponent's batting average of .210, and he's doing it a little bit different than Sale. Sale's power, fastball, power, slider, great changeup. Burley, he'll cut that ball, he'll get you off balance, he'll throw you a changeup. Just tough to pick the ball up on Mark Burley.
Adam LaRoche, the batter, and then Alexi Ramirez. Well, to that point, if you go back to 2009 on July 23rd when he threw a perfect game, his average fastball that season was 84.7 miles an hour. Against Detroit, the perfect game, not one single pitch broke 90 miles an hour. Chris Sale, his average fastball this season, 95.6. His changeup is 85.6.
His changeup is faster than Mark's fastball.
Yep. How about that?
And they both get it done. They get it done. Don Cooper had a great quote about that today, about how they fill up the strike zone. They throw a lot of pitches, quality pitches within the strike zone. And I think the simplest way, if you break pitching down, that's the best thing that you can do. Just throw pitches in the strike zone. We saw it in Detroit when the pitchers started walking people, and 3-2 counts, the whole thing.
Ground ball chopper. And with the shift on, Reyes back of the bag is able to make the play as that one got past Burley on the mound, but Jose Reyes able to deal with it. And here is Ramirez hitting .221, 2 home runs and 26 runs driven in. He's been busy over there at short already behind Sale.
What amazes me about Burley over those last few starts that we talked about, you saw the great numbers, but the strikeouts.
Yeah.
He has had, over his last 4 starts, 22 strikeouts, and he's only given up 1 home run. I mean, that's pitching.
Well, and it's something that, as we certainly know, it's been talked about quite a bit. You know, starters have struggled over the last 7 games. They've allowed 25 earned runs. They're 2-5 with a 7.34 ERA. Burley misses down and in, and the count now 3 balls and a strike. But you can typically count on Mark Burley, no question about it. 3-1 is ripped past the left fielder Valencia off of the wall, and Ramirez is going to stand up at second. He's got himself a double.
Got him out in front of a changeup. It was 3-1. It looked like Burley took a little something off of that pitch, but Ramirez stayed back on it and ripped it past Valencia down the left field line for extra bases. I think that's the approach that you have to have against someone like Mark Burley. Don't commit too early. Don't jump out there and try and go hit the ball. Let it come to you.
Burley with a runner at second. Here's Gordon Beckham, the third baseman, hitting just .207, and a breaking ball is down and in. Burley has more wins at U.S. Cellular Field than any other pitcher. He has 90. The next closest is John Garland with 45. However, none of those wins have come against the White Sox, this only being the second time that he has faced the Sox here in Chicago. This one hit in the air to left field, and tracking it down is Valencia, and Beckham is out, and a runner stranded at second base. Moving along, we go now to the third.
Had some at-bats against Chris Sale. In fact, he's had success against him. Last year, opening day, Minnesota Twins facing the Chicago White Sox. Chris Colabello singled in his first at-bat against Chris Sale. He said next time up, he wasn't sure what to expect. He stands at the plate, and Chris Sale throws him a slider. Colabello tells me when it left his hand, he thought it was going into the 8th row of the stands. Of course, it ends up dropping right over the plate for a strike. From that point on, Chris Sale owned him. He says the Blue Jays have to go into this game feeling absolutely confident that they can hit him. It's, of course, easier said than done because he just has so many weapons. Matt?
Right. Certainly does, and the first pitch is high and away. Colabello, Pilar, and Travis here, bottom third of the lineup.
Chris is a student of hitting. He understands his strengths, his weaknesses, and he also understands what pitchers are trying to do to him. That .335 batting average isn't an accident. He has an idea of what they're trying to do. And right now, Chris Sale has gone away and up, and now he's tanks this one.
Deep to center field. It is gone. A home run. Eaton was giving chase, and it just kept going and going and going. And Colabello touches him up for his 8th home run. Wow. What a blast.
Well, he went breaking ball, fastball, and then he was going to try and slip a fastball by him. But Chris, the studious hitter, was all over it. I like the short swing that Chris Colabello had on that fastball. It was in. He wasn't going to let that thing beat him. So he pulled his hands in and he shortened up that swing, and that ball went a long way.
Oh, he jumped on it. And here's the thing. When you look at it.
See how he kept those hands inside the baseball? Beautiful.
97 mile-per-hour fastball there. Here it is.
One more time. You see how the hands came in?
What does that allow you to do?
It keeps you level, and it keeps you from going around the baseball. He went through the ball right there, and that's why it's in the stands.
Millar flies out, just got underneath that one. Here comes Travis. Here's the thing with Sale. In his last 9 starts, he is just 3-3 with that 1.72 ERA, and opponents are hitting just 170. He gets no run support. In his last 5 starts, the White Sox have been held to all of 8 runs. 3 of the games, they scored just 1 run. So you get a couple against him early. And this is the most potent offense in the American League against a White Sox offense that just struggles night in and night out.
That can get like really tiresome on a pitcher. You just go out there and you pitch great baseball and you have nothing to show for it in the win column. I mean, that's the first thing that you think about, right? Starting pitcher's supposed to go out there and win the ball game, but you also need runs. You need runs. Robin Ventura was talking about that. You can get all the pitching you want, but you still have to score runs.
And there it is, a strikeout, his first of the night. Travis goes down looking.
Well, home runs are such a big part of what the Blue Jays do that allows them to score so many runs. If you look in the American League, the average is 83 home runs for a team. The Blue Jays are way over that, but the Chicago White Sox are way under that at just 58 home runs this year.
Reyes swings and misses. Base hit in the top of the first, and then part of a double play off of the bat of Donaldson. Colabello with a solo blast here in the top of the third, and the Jays lead 1-0. Sale, a chopper. Ramirez comes in and flips it over to first base in time, but not before Chris Colabello hits his 8th of the year off of Chris Sale. Gives it a ride here on the South Side.
Presented by the 2015 Honda Civic, Canada's best-selling car for 17 years in a row and the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Here we are on this Monday night in Chicago. And about 3 hours ago, you wouldn't think that this game was going to start on time, but it certainly has. It was coming down hard, all the rain. People running for cover.
Couldn't see 3 feet in front of you.
Yeah, you did a great job driving, by the way, Tabby.
Thank you. You were my co-pilot.
And I did absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I was like, okay, where are we turning? And you're like, I have no idea.
Just keep going straight. Flowers is the batter, then Sanchez back to the top of the order, and Eaton if anybody gets on Jose Abreu. Burley, the key for him, and here he is through the first 2 innings, and now he's into the third. First inning is ERA 7.13. Second inning a 3 ERA, so he's made it past the first without any damage, and he's now has a 1-0 lead.
Wasn't real happy with that last pitch right there. 2-strike pitch to Flowers. I don't know if he wanted to go in, but it was a fastball, but it was up out over the plate. You can see that number 4 right in the middle there.
Ground ball past the diving Reyes, and Flowers takes a turn at first.
Mark Burley, he's a legend in Chicago. First of all, the no-hitter right there against Texas, and then El Perfecto right here. The perfect game in 2009, ending it against Tampa Bay. Mark Burley, for the longest time, well, he still has the record for most consecutive perfect innings pitched in baseball. 15. That was part of that perfect game. As a starter, 15 consecutive perfect innings, July 18th through the 28th in 2009. Mark Burley has that record as a starter.
Carlos Sanchez is the batter with Flowers at first base. Double play depth through the middle. Burley, a 38th round draft pick in the air. Martin out of his crouch, racing over, makes the grab. What a great play by the all-star Russell Martin.
Well, a couple of things when you watch this play from Russell Martin. He recognizes that the batter is trying to bunt the ball, but then he finds it. Watch him very quickly. The ball is bunted up in the air, gets rid of the mask and finds it, slides to make the catch, and look what he does after he catches it. He's ready to fire the ball to first base just in case that runner might have gone halfway or wasn't real sure what they were going to do if he had fallen asleep. Russell Martin, an all-star for the first time since 2011, with a great play.
Eaton in the air off to the left side, and it curves and twists foul. Mentioned Burley, 38th round selection back in 1998. 36 years of age, of course, drafted by the White Sox. Spent 12 seasons in Chicago. Ground ball to the first baseman, Colabello to second, out onto first, and got it. What a turn! What a turn! 3-6-3.
And Mark Burley is not coming off the field. He's going to wait for the Chicago White Sox to determine if they want to look at this one. He's not going to cross that line and then have to come back onto the playing field.
Everybody else is headed in.
Maybe a little superstition right there for Mark. He just stopped right before he left that line. Here's the call over there. What a turn. First of all by Colabello. Gets rid of it and then gets back to the bag, and a good throw by Reyes where he can stretch out to get that ball. And
that was impressive.
A double play.
To cut down the speed of Adam Eaton. 3-6-3. Colabello with the bat and the glove.
Bisons take on the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders. And on Saturday, July 11th, the first 3,000 fans will receive a Bisons duffel bag. Then Sunday, the first 3,000 fans get a Bisons affiliation replica jersey. And if that weren't enough, you can meet some Blue Jays alumni. Big names, too. We're talking Cecil Fielder and Mookie Wilson will be in attendance. Go to bisons.com for tickets. Matt?
Sale will work against a couple of all-stars here, Donaldson and Bautista. Encarnacion, if anyone gets on, then Valencia. Donaldson grounded into a 6-4-3 double play in the top of the first inning. And he gets underneath this one. Heading into foul territory is Beckham, but that one is out of reach. Sale from Lakeland, Florida, went to Florida Gulf Coast University in Fort Myers, Florida. And the left-hander. Of course, they had a run in the NCAA tournament a few years back. In basketball, the left-hander down and in, and did it hit Donaldson? It hit him, but did it touch the dirt first? And down at first saying no.
Jimmy's going to come out and say, I want to take a look at this one. Give me a second here. As DeMarlo Hale gets on the horn to see if that ball hit him.
And DeMarlo Hale just said it hit him. You see Gibbons now with a word over to Greg Gibson and Sam Holbrook. And they're going to bring out replay equipment.
Slider that came down and into the right hand. That's where he buries that thing to the right-handed batters, down and in, right to that back foot. Can't really tell on that one.
No.
Maybe this one right here, straight on. Here comes that slider down and in.
Yep.
And that clearly hit him right in the foot.
Yeah, and you can see the reaction of Donaldson too. Right on top of the foot.
And where the ball ricocheted, you saw Tyler Flowers, the catcher, reach to his left, and the ball went the other way, suggesting that that ball hit the foot of Josh Donaldson.
So under review, the last play.
Josh waiting around. He's probably going to go down to first base. Waiting for him.
Donaldson outside the box, just waiting.
A lot of times the umpires could hear it when it hit their feet. But
yeah,
I'm surprised that it's taken this long.
Sales deciding to throw with Flowers now.
I haven't seen anything put up on the big board here.
No.
Usually they throw it up on the big board for everybody. Now they got their answer. And he's going to go to first base.
And you're going to take that against Chris Sale.
You'll take anything.
Yes.
Anything you can get against Chris Sale. Leading off an inning, get something started right here.
So Donaldson now over at first base. Bautista is the hitter. Grounded out in the top of the first inning. Sale, the lean lefty, the hard thrower, comes set. Finished third in the AL Cy Young Award voting a season ago. Last year is ERA 2.17 with a mark of 12-4. He just hasn't gotten the run support this year. Jays are going to try to tack on some more here in the top of the fourth inning.
And just do everything they can to try and make life a little bit more miserable. That last pitch to Jose Bautista is exactly what I was talking about an inning earlier about the chase percentage. Blue Jay batters just don't chase those balls off the plate.
Great understanding of the zone. Bautista, they're going to check. Did he go around? No, he did not. And the count now 3-0. What do you think against Sale with a count of 3-0?
Well, if you feel comfortable, Bautista's faced him one time. He's had a double before tonight's ball game. Let him go ahead and swing away.
And a strike is called there. Bautista was headed to first base. So the count now 3-1. Sale checks in on Donaldson over at first base. Cabrera deep in left field. Bautista waits and got underneath it. Shoots it high in the air on the left side. Ramirez calling for it, drifting over toward the hole. And there's one down as he puts this one away. And Encarnacion is the batter.
That was a good pitch to hit, and Jose thought he should have gotten a little bit more of the bat. He slams his bat down on the ground. 3-1 pitch. That was a fastball. You're not going to get a lot of good pitches like that to hit against Chris Sale.
Encarnacion looks at a pitch down and in. Sale has faced 228 batters in his last 8 starts, striking out 97. Jays have struck out just once. That was Travis looking in the 3rd. That is 42.5% of the batters that he has faced over that time. Nearly half have struck out.
Who needs a defense? This is a White Sox team that has struggled defensively.
Well, and that's why he's saying, all right.
Yeah, here, I got to strike these guys out. 42% of the time, all you need is a catcher.
Ground ball through the right side, played for the shift. And runners at first and second off the end of the bat. Encarnacion is over at first base.
See, I don't know if I would shift against Chris Sale because his stuff is so good, and you're not going to pull the ball off of him. Even if you're Edwin Encarnacion, watch where this pitch is, and Edwin just, excuse me, right off the end of the bat, but because there's nobody over there. Look at the hole. He just dribbles that ball through on the right side. Donaldson has to wait to let the ball get by him so he can't go first to third. That's how you beat the shift.
Sale named to the American League All-Star staff for the 4th consecutive year. Runners at first and second, and the pitch to Valencia is down and away. And you mentioned this early, and it's an excellent point. Bring it up throughout the night about it's a Blue Jays team they don't chase.
For all the power that the Blue Jays have,
which is amazing.
It's amazing. They don't chase pitches off the strike zone. And I think it's going to be something really interesting to watch tonight as the pitch count keeps mounting for Chris Sale. Brooke Jacoby's team, they have a pretty good game plan tonight against Sale.
Fouled off to the right side. Karams back into the seats in front as it went off of facing here.
You know, I look at the chase percentage, and you can break down that on certain pitches. They chase that changeup 42% of the time, but if you can lay off of it, it's off the plate.
Strikeout on the inside corner. Valencia didn't like it. That's his 2nd strikeout. 8 away from history.
If you know that they're not chasing the changeup off the plate, why don't you go to a fastball? And that's what he does right there on the inner half. Punched out by the home plate umpire. Sale from that sidearm delivery.
That's so
it's
tough.
It's a whip. Comes in there hard. They might want to start looking for the fastball. He has the highest fastball whiff percentage in all of baseball. He doesn't get them just with the slider and the changeup. He gets a lot of them with that fastball, like we've seen tonight. Both strikeouts on an inside fastball.
Martin popped out in foul territory in the 2nd, and the pitch is a strike. Runners at first and second. Donaldson was hit by a pitch. Bautista popped out to Ramirez at short, and then Encarnacion with a shift was able to get one through the right side, and runners now at first and second. Valencia just struck out looking, and the 1-1 It's strike 2, and Sale all of a sudden now heating up a little bit here.
Well, the good ones, when there are runners on base, they can take it to another notch.
Brown's looking for a strikeout. Martin looking for a base hit and maybe an RBI. And that pitch misses away.
Just off the plate. Fans wanted it. But the Blue Jays refused to go out there. You're going to have to make a pitch to get him out.
Fouled off to the right side. Sale was scheduled to pitch yesterday. They pushed him back to today. White Sox lost yesterday to Baltimore. However, they've won 4 of their last 5. Blue Jays lead on a solo blast off of the bat of Colabello back in the 3rd. Runners at first and second, and a count of 2-2 with 2 outs here. In the top of the 4th, the All-Star Sale looks back at second, deals, and the pitch is low. What an eye by Martin.
That's a tough pitch. A sweeping slider. Reminds me of Randy Johnson when Randy Johnson was twirling. A slider, and Martin just let it go.
The 3-2, swing and a miss. Struck him out. His 3rd strikeout. Jays strand 2. They lead 1-0. We go to the home half of the 4th.
'90s edition, we discuss whether or not things would have been different if the Yankees had missed out on Derek Jeter. The magazine also includes an interview with Blue Jay Roberto Osuna. You can download this magazine for free. You can find out how by visiting sportsnet.ca/magazine. Always a great read, Matt.
Yeah, certainly is. You can get it off of your tablet as well.
I want to get that issue. I want to read that. It drives me crazy when people say Derek Jeter was only Derek Jeter because he played for the Yankees. Derek Jeter would have been a Hall of Famer. I don't care where he would have been playing.
Abreu on the ground to Travis. And there's one down here in the bottom of the 4th inning. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. Jamie, what do you have for us? Baltimore just wrapping up a series with the White Sox. They won yesterday here. And Melky Cabrera. I agree with you. I mean, look, it's a perfect storm as Cabrera fouls it off that he played in New York, but he was such an integral part of what the New York Yankees did day in and day out. the captain, as Cabrera loops this one into center field for a base hit.
Hey, he would have made whatever team he played for would have been a great team. You know, it's because of the individual. The team doesn't make the player makes the team. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, great point. Well, and it's how the dynamics always change within a clubhouse, right, with players' presence.
Yeah.
From a year-to-year basis, you think about it, and what Donaldson has added to the Jays this year, and Martin, what he's added to the Jays this year, what Burley has added to the Jays.
Winning attitudes. They're winners. They come to play every day to help you win games. If Derek Jeter got drafted #1 by Houston, the Houston Astros would have been good too.
Garcia hits this one in the air to right field, and it gets in front of Bautista, and they're going to throw behind the runner at first. It gets away from Colabello, and now racing home is Cabrera. Tied at 4. John Gibbons comes out to have a word with Greg Gibson.
Well, that's unfortunate right there for the Blue Jays. The ball wasn't hit very hard by Garcia, but he put it in the right spot. And Bautista tried to catch Garcia napping by throwing behind him. One more time, the ball bloops down the right field line. Jose picks up that he has really taken a big turn, but when the ball gets by Colabello, that's just enough time for Cabrera to move in from third base. One more time, maybe that's what he's arguing about, that the coach might have got in the way right there. That's Darryl Boston. But he's not going to win that argument.
Fouled off. Roche. Bautista picks up his first error of the season. Runner at first base, 1 away. Burley to the plate, and a liner, and then tagging the foot of the diving Garcia was Colabello, and they want to check.
Yeah, they will check this one again. I think what the umpire was going on is Colabello swiped at him. It looks like initially hit him in the foot, but then went back to tag him again. And I think that's what Greg Gibson, the crew chief, saw. And I think that's what Colabello is arguing about. One more time, this ball's hit hard by LaRoche right at the first baseman. He snares it.
He's saying he got him right there. Let's see. This should tell the tale.
Garcia is getting back right now. Here comes. Does he get him? Yeah, he gets him right on the foot.
Colabello was adamant. He said, I got him.
Yeah, you can see he's still not back to the back, so that's going to be a double play.
Yep. And that will end the inning.
Put that one down. That was a nice play by Colabello. That ball was hit sharply by LaRoche, and it was hooking right at him. Right-handed throwing infielder. He had the backhanded. And again, I think he went down, he tagged him initially and then lost his balance a little bit and then act like he tried to tag him again. I think that's what the umpire saw, just assuming he missed the tag the first time, but he didn't. Hit him right in the calf.
Garcia remains at first. He looped a base hit into right field. Cabrera came around to eventually score on an error charged to Jose Bautista. Adam LaRoche just lined it right to Colabello. Colabello making the grab there, and then the diving tag. Play is still under review. The second.
He looked like he wanted to bang him, didn't he?
Yeah.
He wanted to call him out and then saw him one more time.
Second play under review in this game. And let's see here. Colabello and Burley. And he is out. Second time that Burley's had to wait around to see, but second time that it ends an inning. Time now for a Blue Jays Central update. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg Zahn.
18th when the Tampa Bay Rays pay a visit to Rogers Center for a 1:07 start. Join us pregame outside Gate 10 for inflatables, activities, and lots of fun. After the game, kids 14 and under can run the bases just like the pros. Go to BlueJays.com for more details. Matt?
Unearned run, and we're tied at 1. Colabello takes a look at a strike. Bottom third of the order for John Gibbons. Colabello with a solo blast in the third. Sale with the pitch, a swing and a miss. And the count now quickly 0-2.
Do you get the sense that Chris Sale is starting to lock in?
Yep.
I do. He struck out the last 2 batters of last inning. Valencia and Martin. Now he jumps ahead of Colabello. 2 strikes.
The 0-2 on its way, and a breaking ball is outside. White Sox this season, 7 games under 500. They expected to be one of the better teams in the American League Central. That has not been the case. Swing and a miss. That's the 4th strikeout, 3 in a row.
Well, what a streak it has been. Historical streak, run that he has been on since May the 23rd. 14 strikeouts per 9 inning. Better than some of the other great strikeout artists in all of baseball. Kershaw, Archer, Scherzer, Kluber. Better than everybody, just blowing them all out of the water is Chris Sale. 14.5 strikeouts per 9 inning.
Total of 97 to Kershaw, a total of 71, or pardon me, 74. Archer and Scherzer. And Kluber, as you mentioned, Archer with 71, Scherzer with 67, and Kluber with 65. 97. And this one off to the right side for Pilar.
This is his first start in the month of July. What a month of June it was for Chris Sale. 75 strikeouts. The most in a month since Nolan Ryan had 87 in June of 1977.
Pilar in the air, right to Cabrera. And there are 2 down here in the 5th.
The 2015 Honda Civic is Canada's best-selling car for 17 years in a row and the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Travis pops this one up off to the right side, headed toward the seats, and Abreu over there, and he's able to handle it right along the railing, and that's going to do it. A 1-2-3 inning for Chris Sale as he's able to handle the bottom of the order of the Blue Jays. We go to the bottom of the 5th, tied at 1. Authority of Rogers Blue Jays baseball partnership. and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. Bottom of the 5th, tied at 1. Ramirez, Beckham, and Flowers. They'll face Burley, and the quick working lefty delivers, and the diving Reyes, and it pops out of his glove, scooped up by Travis, and safe at first base is Ramirez.
He got there in time, and then the dive, the ball was in his glove, but he just couldn't squeeze it and keep it in there. It looked like a cutter from Burley, laced up the middle. Reyes gets over there, the ball's in his glove, and then it just pops out ever so slightly. You can see in the webbing, can't close it, and when he hits the ground, it just pops out.
Base hit for Ramirez. He's 2 for 2. Beckham flew out back in the 2nd inning, facing Burley. Burley is facing his former team for the 4th time in his career. In his previous 3 outings, he allowed a total of 3 earned runs or less in each start. The one here tonight is unearned. He has a 1-1 record with a 3.20 ERA in those 3 career starts. Fouled off to the right side. As we chronicled earlier, his last 7 starts, 3-0 to 2.08 ERA, and opponents hitting .207 against the left-hander. 6th all-time in wins in the history of the White Sox. Pilar is going to handle that. And coming in from the bullpen, this was right after Chris Sale entered the dugout. As he was coming in from the bullpen, a round of applause and the acknowledgement from Mark Burley.
Yeah, standing ovation for Burley. Standing ovation when he left the dugout to go warm up down in the bullpen. And then when he got back in, right after Sale came in to start the game, he did some great things while he was a member of this team.
He made his debut for the White Sox, as this one is off the bat of Flowers, going back deep. The wall. Pilar is able to bring it in. Pilar going all the way back up against the wall, able to reel that one in as Flowers gave it a ride.
He had that one all the way. He tracked it all the way and knew exactly where that ball was going to come down. You can see as soon as this ball was hit, he knew it was going to be close against the wall. Took one more quick look to see where that wall was and just hauls it in. That ball's leaving the ballpark.
He's played a great center field, hasn't he?
Certainly has. Certainly has. Night after night, we talked about Pilar making these types of catches. You can see that ball's over that yellow line and would have been out of here for a 2-run home run.
Scooped up, Donaldson over to first. Sanchez is out. And that's going to end the inning. What a play by Donaldson over there at third. Off of the leg of Burley. You hope he's going to be all right. 1-5-3 on the putout. Rockies.
First one by the center fielder Kevin Pillar as he goes back, and he's going to take a home run away from Tyler Flowers. Great defense in the middle of the diamond. Then Burley, he's got a knack for this, kicking that ball over to Josh Donaldson, who's Johnny on the spot, picks it up with his bare hand and finishes off the play over first base. I'll tell you, when Mark Burley pitches like that, when you work quickly, you throw a lot of strikes, you keep everybody engaged in the game, and you see those type of plays night after night.
Jose Reyes in the air to left center field, and Eaton is right there, and there's one away here in the top of the 6th inning. Deadlocked at 1. Donaldson and Bautista, if anyone gets on, then Encarnacion. Donaldson, the all-star. Hit by a pitch back in the 4th. Swings and fouls this one off. 7 for 24 in July with 7 RBIs is Donaldson. Yesterday had a pair of base hits and a run scored, as well as a couple of RBIs against the Tigers, and Sale 95 there.
Just Donaldson didn't know what to do right there. Josh, half a swing right there at that high fastball. Now let's see what Sale goes to with 2 strikes. He hasn't had that pitch all night. Slider. He hasn't thrown it for a strike. I haven't seen a called strike, and I really haven't seen a swing and miss on that slider tonight. He just hasn't found that release point where he can get it in the strike zone.
Donaldson hits this one deep to left field, going back, gone! Josh Donaldson in the seats in left field. His 20th home run, and Chris Sale touched up for 2 bombs off of the bats of the Blue Jays here on a Monday night. Donaldson deep to left field.
Oh, another one of those high fastballs, and he got on top of it. Trying to go back in there one more time with that fastball, and Josh was waiting for it.
Jays with a 2-1 lead. Donaldson with 20 home runs.
That's a nice round number, isn't it? Heading into the All-Star break, the All-Star game. One more time, fastball in and up. And Donaldson puts it in the seats.
Number 20 for number 20.
We have seen him do this all season long, that high fastball. He can get to it.
What a first half for Josh Donaldson, the Auburn Tiger. You know, here's the thing. You know, mentioned this earlier. This is a team that against lefties, they have a bundle of success. Bautista into left field, and there's Cabrera, the second out, hitting .307. 25 home runs against lefties this season.
11 wins against lefty starters this year. That's the impressive thing. The Blue Jays have been able to parlay all that hitting into wins.
Encarnacion into center field, and Eaton handles it. But not before Josh Donaldson hits number 20. Watch this one. 2-1 Blue Jays.
And it all begins at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, the Cardinals and the Cubs. And tonight, John Lester, pitching for the Cubs, did something he'd never done before. He picked up a base hit. He was 0 for 77, including postseason action. So a big night for him and a big day for baseball. Cubs and Cards, and then, of course, tomorrow night it's Jays and White Sox.
Burley in a strike. Tabby, we may have to go over there and catch a little bit of action on the north side, one of your former teams, and then head over here to the south side. Little day-night doubleheader. You know how many fans are probably going to do that? What a great day that would be. And Travis underneath it.
I did that one day. Actually got to go watch the Cubs and the Reds, and then came here and watched a game. The White Sox, I think they played the Blue Jays. We're in town. Heck, the way this game's going, mate, we might be able to go catch the last 3 innings tonight over there at Wrigley Field. What do you think?
You're exactly right. Sale and Burley, they don't mess around. They don't waste time. Abreu, he's 0 for 2. Bottom of the 6th, and is that 1 run enough? 2 solo home runs. Donaldson now tied with Mark Teixeira of the New York Yankees. Pujols still leads with 25. Martinez, J.D. Martinez with 23. Trout and Cruz with 21. Abreu fouls it off.
Well, he got number 20. Josh Donaldson off a pretty good pitcher. Got him in his book. And that's something that Sale hasn't done a lot of this year. Give up home runs. He's only given up 8 coming into tonight's ball game.
Abreu fouls it off to the right side. Abreu set a franchise rookie record with 36 home runs in 2014. The old mark held by Ron Kittle back in 1983 with 35. Ground ball. Reyes over to first. 2 away.
The 2015 Honda Civic is Canada's best-selling car for 17 years in a row and the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Downtown Chicago. And Melky Cabrera looks at a strike as it got away from Martin. Melky scored the lone run for the White Sox. An unearned run back in the 4th inning. Didn't hit it hard. Got a base hit through the middle. Then a looping fly ball into shallow right field off of the bat of Garcia. He was going to get to third, Cabrera, which he did easily. Bautista tried to throw behind the runner at first base. Colabello couldn't handle the throw. And so Melky Cabrera scooted home.
And if not for that, you're talking shutout baseball. By Mark Burley's had a lot of nifty plays behind him already. There's already been 3 double plays turned by the Blue Jays tonight, 2 of them to end innings.
And a couple of plays that were under review that led to that. Made his big league debut here July 16th of 2000. And it's a 1-2-3 inning. Give them a run. Go out there, work quickly. A 1-2-3, folks. We're already headed to the 7th.
kickoff by Bacardi, and it begins on July 17th when the Blue Jays host the Rays at 7:07. A great day to get to the ballpark. You can enjoy our pregame festival outside Gate 10. Gates will open at 4:30 that afternoon, and you can enjoy a live performance by special guest Dean Brody in the licensed area. Go to BlueJays.com for more details. Guys, moments after Donaldson hit that home run, he literally did bring down the rain because it started to fall. It has stopped for now, but it's not looking good.
We don't see anyone taken for cover as of yet here. They said there was a window of about 2 hours. We are about, I'd say 30 minutes or so away from that window, or less. Valencia off the end of the bat, racing in is Beckham over to first. Got him.
You've got two pitchers who throw a lot of strikes and they keep the batter on the defensive, so the defense is always on their toes, and you're going to see great plays like this. This one just chopped off the bat of Valencia. Here comes Gordon Beckham with a nice play to get the first out of this inning. How about these two pitchers? We were talking about it in the opening, that they have different styles, but after 6 innings, they were dead even, weren't they?
Yeah, 74 pitches, 51 strikes, 23 balls, both identical.
The start of this inning.
They get things done. They just go about it in a different way. Here's Martin.
They end up at the same place, but they take different routes.
Yeah.
One does it with power, and we're seeing that power from Chris Sale right now. One does it with finesse.
Chop foul, and Martin stays alive. Had a good at-bat back in the 4th before eventually striking out. He was battling up there, was the all-star Russell Martin. Here in the top of the 7th inning, 2-1. Blue Jays on a couple of solo jacks. Colabello in the 3rd, and then Donaldson is 20th in the 6th. Sale. The big lefty. And getting underneath it is Martin, high in the air. Coming in is the 3rd baseman. Beckham backs up now. 2 outs.
We were talking about both of these pitchers. The only similarity is they're left-handed. Look at how much different they are. One's 36, one's 26. One's fastball goes 83, the other one goes 94. One was drafted in the 38th round, the other one was drafted in the 1st round. They couldn't be more different. Yet here they are, successful in the major leagues for a long time. Mark Burley and Chris Sale is, he's been good for the last 3 or 4 years. He's an outstanding pitcher himself.
Sale, 4th consecutive year he's an American League All-Star. Everyone talks about the length of games and the pace of play. Well, how about this? Just take after Sale and Burley.
Yeah, just watch how these guys work. Chris Sale was passed up by 12 teams before he was drafted.
13th overall selection in 2010.
How does that happen? It must have been one heck of a draft that year.
The pitch to Colabello.
If Chris Sale was drafted 13th overall in 2012, I'd like to know who some of the other guys were. Now I know.
How about Burley? 38th round.
38th round. Shows you the difference between those two players, but they're both big leaguers. And they're both all-stars in my mind.
Breaking ball down and in. Well, it was a good draft. That was the year Bryce Harper was chosen number 1. Manny Machado was 3rd. I mean, there are some players now. Matt Harvey was 7th. Sale went 13th. It's a 1-2-3. Outside, and here are the numbers.
If you look at the record books for the Chicago White Sox pitching, Mark Buehrle is all over it. There are the starts, 365. That's fourth all time. Ted Lyons, Red Farber, Ed Walsh in wins. Mark Buehrle, sixth with 161 innings, strikeouts. He's everywhere, all over the record books for the Chicago White Sox. One number where he is leading for the Chicago White Sox all time. You want to guess what it is? Home runs. He's given up the most home runs in White Sox history, 274.
Well, it happens.
Yes, yes.
Even to Chris Sale. Happened twice tonight. Buehrle was an all-star here for the White Sox in 2002, 2005, 06, and then again in 2009. And there's a strikeout. Paints the inside edge. Second time Garcia has gone down. This time looking.
Well, he just set him up for that cutter right on the inside edge, and he just cannot pull the trigger. Mark Buehrle is using that fastball again with a lot of success.
7 in a row he is retired since the base hit by Alexi Ramirez back in the 5th inning. And that was a ball that was in and out of the glove of Reyes on a diving attempt. Buehrle remembered fondly here. No hitter in 07, perfect game in 09. 36-year-old in his 3rd year in Toronto. And Colabello handles it and will go to the bag himself, and that's 8 in a row now. 2 down here in the 7th, and Ramirez has been the one batter that has given to Buehrle some issues here on this Monday night. A double in the 2nd and then a base hit in the 5th inning.
He's had a good at bats. He has let the ball come to him. He hasn't gone out there to try and get that changeup. He hasn't gone out there to try and get that cutter. He's just laid back and used his hands.
This could be the last time that Mark Buehrle pitches here on the South Side. Of course, his contract's up. You don't know what he's going to decide to do. He's had an outstanding career. And if he comes away with a victory tonight, it'll be his 10th and the 15th consecutive year, 10 or more wins. I mean, that is just something else. And you know how he just racks up the innings, 200 plus every year. Book it. And a pitcher like Mark Buehrle, just so valuable.
Valuable. That's a good way to put it for a pitcher, because he makes his starts and he gives you innings. He's reliable. You can bank on him. You can count on him. John Gibbons knows all about that. His 2 veteran pitchers, R.A. Dickey and Mark Buehrle, they just make starts and they pitch innings and they get you deep into the ball games.
Ground ball, and it's handled by Jose Reyes. And it's a 1-2-3 inning. Mark Buehrle, a part of that 2005 World Series team.
best-selling car for 17 years in a row and the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
To the 8th. And the rain is picking up here at U.S. Cellular Field on the south side of Chicago. We're starting to see some fans heading for some cover. And this one's going to end up in the dugout as it rolls off the top of the dugout. And you can start to see it come down right in front of us here. But this one has moved along at a swift pace. We're about 92 minutes into this. On the ground, Pilar is the batter. And there's one away here in the 8th inning. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. All right, we look forward to hearing the outcome of that. Travis 0 for 2. Travis has a 7-game hit streak that he's working on, 12 for 25, hitting .480. He's moved his batting average from .262 up to .297 during that stretch. And the rain continues to pick up here as Sale gets a strike, and you see it there. It's still hot and humid though, right around 25. And they thought they had the third one, but it's a ball.
They're not chasing after that thing right there. That's the first time I saw him throw a called strike with the slider tonight. So he has pitched marvelous baseball without one of his best pitches.
Sale stabs it and throws over to first. There's 2 away. Trying to catch some raindrops there. Oh, it just missed it. Got it in the eye. Oh man. Fun night here at the ballpark. And a big swing by Reyes as he spins around. Blue Jays lead 2-1 on a couple of solo home runs. If you're just joining us, the one run that the White Sox scored was unearned. First error by the right fielder, Bautista. There's a strike. You mentioned this a couple of innings ago with Sale, how he's kind of found that rhythm and groove. You can see it. The Condor deals. Backhand play by Ramirez over to first with the stretch. What a play by Ramirez at short going into the hole, and Abreu digs it out. It's a 1-2-3. Ramirez going deep into the hole and then throws over to first, and Reyes is out. A 1-2-3. Time now for a Blue Jay Central update. Here's Jamie and Zani. Guys. 7 innings of work, 6 hits, 1 run. It was unearned. And Beckham swings at the first pitch, and no one's going to be able to catch up with it. Valencia, Reyes, and Donaldson all giving chase.
The 2015 Honda Civic is Canada's best-selling car for 17 years in a row and the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
That looks pretty good right about now.
Handle a couple of those.
Absolutely. Bring him up to the booth. Reyes right through the legs. And an error here in the 8th. Let's see if Burley can get another ground ball off the bat of Flowers. Flowers singled in the 3rd, and then a great play by Pilar in the 5th to bring what could have been a home run back into the ballpark.
Yeah, this is an easy play for Reyes, and he just pulls the glove up too soon. Just doesn't look that ball right into the middle of his glove. He is anticipating that ball. It's his 7th error of the season, and now Mark Burley has got to pick his teammate up right here.
High in the air off the bat of Flowers, out toward right. Bautista sliding and making the grab. The sliding grab by Bautista in foul territory, and there's one away, and a double play ball can get them out of the inning. What a great play. We've seen some great defensive plays.
Well, just add that to the list of great plays by the Blue Jays tonight. How about Bautista? He takes a glance to see where that wall is, and then he just does the slide to absorb that wall as he's going to run into it. Catches the ball. He came a long, long way for that. And takes the brunt of that hit right on his knees, and then gets up and throws the ball back in. What a play.
Big time. Sanchez looks at a strike. Saw a great 3-6-3 double play in the 3rd. Another one in the 4th. Colabello dove to tag out Garcia. This one's in the air, coming on Pilar. Pilar made a great play in the 5th, and then Donaldson over at 3rd to end the 5th. Bautista here in the 8th. 2 down, and that's going to bring up Adam Eaton. Eaton is 1 for 3. Burley has 3 complete games this season, if you're thinking about that. In the previous 4 seasons, he's only had 2 complete games.
And every one of them has been on the road this year.
Fouled off to the left side.
At Minnesota, at Washington, at Houston.
And tonight, Blue Jays at Chicago. Burley against his former team for the 4th time in his career in a strike. A 2-1 game. Burley was scored on in the 4th, unearned run, and Cabrera scored. Beckham with a lead, and a breaking ball down low right at the feet of Martin as he dances around and finally picks it up and then hands the baseball off to Sam Holbrook, the home plate umpire. Abreu awaits. He's on deck. And if Eaton can find his way aboard. It's a light hitting team, even with the likes of Abreu in the lineup. And this is a franchise that did not expect to struggle this year, Tabby.
Thought that there would be plenty of power in this team. With Abreu and Garcia, LaRoche. Ramirez has had a 20 home run season. A shortstop. Melky Cabrera is a good hitter. They just have not found their way yet.
Pitch misses.
All right, 3-2 now, 2 outs. That runner is going to be going right here. It's Beckham over at first base. Burley might give him one of his good moves over to first base here.
On the ground, through the middle, and runners are going to be stationed at the corner for Jose Abreu, who is 0 for 3 on the night, has a 7-game hit streak, hitting .310 with 2 homers and 4 RBIs during that stretch.
Early trying to get out of this inning after the leadoff error by Jose Reyes that set this inning up on the Beckham grounder. Throws that cutter. It's a little bit too high. And that allows Eaton to get a hold of that, punch it back through the middle. So first and third, 2 down. And the best hitter, I think, for the White Sox steps to the plate. Abreu, they moved him into that number 2 hole to get him some extra at-bats because he is their best hitter.
Looped into shallow center field. It's going to fall in, and we're now tied. Another unearned run comes around to score.
It looked like it was going to hang up there long enough for Pilar to make the catch. Burley makes another great pitch off the end of the bat by Abreu, but he's so strong. And it looks like he had a chance to just keep that ball up in the air. You can see right off the end of the bat that Pilar can't do it. Can't come in and make the play, and we are all tied.
Both runs unearned. Still raining here. Pretty steady rainfall, although not all too heavy. Runners at first and second. Cabrera, and the pitch down low and away. So the error to begin the inning comes back to haunt the Jays.
Much to overcome. We're talking about the middle of the lineup.
Unfortunate for Burley. Cabrera facing his former team for the 4th time since leaving. He's 4 for 13 entering tonight with an RBI all in. Toronto on the ground, past a diving Donaldson. Rounding third is Eaton. Rounding third is Abreu. Play at the plate, not in time.
That was the big hit that the White Sox were looking for right there. 2 outs, 2 runs on, and Melky Cabrera gets a chance to get back at his former team. Bounces this ball by Donaldson. It looked like he might have got a glove on it, slowed it down a little bit. Valencia gets over, hits the cutoff man, but the throw from Reyes bounces a couple times. And that second bounce, it had bounced up high, and that allowed the runner to slide in underneath the tag. 2-run double by Cabrera, and unfortunately for the Blue Jays, they're all unearned.
Garcia flies out to end the 8th inning. All unearned runs. Beckham got on base by an error. We head now to the The game brought to you by the 2015 Honda Civic, Canada's best-selling car, 17 years in a row, and the official vehicle of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Let's go back a couple of innings. Josh Donaldson at the plate. He gets this high offering from Chris Sale, and he sends it high and deep. This is his 20th home run to put the Blue Jays ahead 2-1. Josh Donaldson with home run number 20, our drive of the game. And Chris Sale now gets to go to the 9th inning with the lead. And he will face Josh Donaldson to lead off the inning.
Donaldson gave the Blue Jays a lead in the 6th inning. All 4 runs unearned.
You know, they gave Chris Sale an extra day for this right here, Matt. He was supposed to pitch yesterday. They held him back one more day just to give him a little bit of extra rest because he has had some high pitch count games. But they did that so he can be strong here in the 9th.
Tap to the left side. Ramirez can't make the play. It's going to be an infield single. Now, let's get a preview of what's coming up on Sportsnet Central. Here's Ken and Ivanka. All right, Donaldson over at first. Bautista, he can tie it up with one swing of the bat, Tabby.
Yeah, that's why that leadoff batter getting on, just put the pressure on the opposition. Don't give away at bats. Blue Jays never do that. Now they got a chance to tie.
Sale to the plate, and it's ripped foul. And it appears as though Sale's going to come up short of that mark. Coming in 8 straight games at 10 or more strikeouts. He has 5 tonight. Oh, 2.
You know what makes a great teammate? Somebody like Mark Burley. He knows how tough it is to play this game, and he knows that Jose Reyes doesn't feel good right now. Yeah. But an error opened up the floodgates of that. Mark Burley goes over and says, "That's all right."
And also over to Jose Bautista as well. He makes a great teammate.
Yes. Yeah. We were talking to Hawk Harrelson before the ball game. He said he's the best that he has ever seen. As David Robertson, the closer, is now up for the Chicago White Sox. Hawk was saying that Mark Burley, he's going to put him in the same category as Catfish Hunter.
That's right. He said they're bookends.
Bookends.
One's a right-hander, one's a left-hander. So both of them kind of had that, went out there with that same mentality.
They are both great teammates and great pitchers.
Well, when you have Burley go and do what he just did, those are the sort of guys you want to play behind, right?
Absolutely.
You know,
he'll do whatever it takes.
Yep. And you know the Jays want to come through here because he's had a great night on the mound. Sale looks over at first. Here's a pitch. Got him. 1 away here in the 9th. Six strikeouts now. White Sox have won 4 of their last 5, 3 of 4 against the Blue Jays. Appears as though Sale's going to come up short on setting that new mark as Encarnacion takes it down and in. He's 1 for 3. But both pitchers tonight, great job.
It's been fun.
Yep.
It's been fun to watch these two go about their business, their craft. Sale trying to set a major league record for consecutive games with 10 or more strikeouts in a game. He is the White Sox leader in history in 10+ strikeout games with 27.
He's on pace to record a franchise record 289 strikeouts, which would be the highest total since Arizona's Randy Johnson struck out 290 in 2004.
And he reminds you a lot of Randy Johnson, the way he throws the ball and the action that he has on his pitches.
On the ground, threw Beckham into left field, and runners at first and second here in the top of the 9th inning.
We'll see how they score that one, but that ball was hit hard by Encarnacion. Looked like it took a wicked hop by Gordon Beckham. One more time, you see he's hugging the line, no doubles. The in-between hop right by him. Looked like he got a glove on it. So Encarnacion is going to be lifted for a pinch runner.
Ezekiel Carrera. Runners at first and second. Valencia is the hitter. 0 for 3. And this could do it right here. And it does. 6-4-3. Double play. Sale comes away with the complete game victory. 4-2. All 4 runs unearned.
But neither pitcher disappointed. This is exactly what it was billed as, and that's exactly what we got tonight. A pitcher's duel between 2 of the finest pitchers, 2 of the hottest pitchers in all of baseball. Unfortunately for the Blue Jays, they make great defensive plays, but there are 2 plays that cost them 4 runs tonight. Sale wins that battle.
Unfortunate for Mark Burley. Did a great job on the hill. But the White Sox win the first of a 4-game set here on the South Side. Time for Sportsnet Central. Here's Ken and Ivanka